Hello everyone, my name is YAP-JL. My matrix number is 2502080710. I am 25 years old. Our group's economic presentation topic is Datuk Fan Bingbing.
Yang berbahagia Datuk Fan Bingbing.
The news title is Actress Fan Bingbing confers honorary Datukships for contribution to Malacca tourism.
Popular Chinese actress Fan Bingbing began her role as the Visit Malacca 2024 TMM 2024 ambassador by engaging hundreds of fans in Bandar Hilir on Friday. Clad in a Nyonya Kebaya, Fan is scheduled for a series of meet and greet sessions and visits to tourism and heritage sites from Friday to Sunday.
My group member is me, YAP-JL, me, Leonard Axel Xu, Liu Zheping, Pui Hui Ling. I'm going to talk about a macroeconomics theory.
What is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that studies the economy as a whole, not just individual markets and industries. It looks at how things like unemployment, inflation, and GDP affect the lives of people in a country, and how different sectors in an economy interact and influence each other. Macroeconomics can be applied to any country, region, or group of countries.
Called gross domestic products in this case.
How do you measure the size of an entire economy? Let's say I buy a coffee here in London for £3. Those £3 are factored into the United Kingdom's GDP. And so is this barista's salary and this espresso machine. In fact, most of what's around you is part of GDP. GDP is an important gauge of the overall health of an economy. It stands for Gross Domestic Product. Simply put, GDP measures the total value of all goods and services in a country. That means it measures a lot of stuff worth a lot of money. Here in the UK, GDP is around $2.5 trillion per year. In the United States, the world's biggest economy, it's around $19 trillion every year. How do you get to these numbers? Well, you can calculate GDP in a few different ways, but the most commonly used equation goes like this. Consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports equals GDP. Let's break that down. Consumption is another way of saying consumer spending. It's the money you or I spend on physical goods like coffee and on services like a haircut. In many developed economies like the UK or the US, consumer spending makes up more than half of a country's GDP. The second part of the GDP equation is investment. This measures how much businesses spend on things like buildings, land, and equipment. It also includes a major consumer investment, buying a home. Investment can take a hit when the economy is suffering. You can see in this chart domestic business investment plummeted in the US during the financial crisis. That's because companies were trying to save money instead of putting it towards things like factories, machinery, and equipment. Okay, now we get to government spending. This is the money local, state, and national governments spend on things like roads, schools, and defense. Government spending varies a lot depending on each country's approach to public goods and services. Take, for example, France, where government spending amounts to roughly 56% of GDP. That's compared to 41% in the UK and 38% in the US. That brings us to the final part of the GDP calculation, net exports, or exports minus imports. A lot of countries have negative net exports, meaning they bring in more products than they send out. For example, the UK imports around $1 billion worth of coffee every year, but only exports around $315 million, meaning its net exports of coffee are negative. Countries around the world collect data on consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. This makes GDP a universal measurement and a way for countries to stack up against one another. But it's not just the sum of the equation people look.
Due to Datuk Fan Bingbing, promotions of Malacca to China mainland tourists, Malacca will have higher gross domestic product growth rates.
You'll often hear about the GDP growth rate, or the percentage change in GDP over time. Generally, if an economy is healthy, GDP growth expands. If an economy is in bad shape, GDP growth contracts. 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth are referred to as a recession.
Due to triple arrivals of China mainland tourists years to years, from 200,000 plus in 2023 to 600,000 plus in 2024, which increased the export value in expenditures approach measurements of gross domestic product.
Hi everyone, my name is Leonard Echelswil and my section explains how Fan Bingbing's Datukship and the rise in Chinese tourist arrival affect inflation in Malacca. In simple terms, inflation happens when the general price level of goods and services increases. One major cause in demand pull inflation where demand rises faster than the available supply. After Fan Bingbing promoted Malacca on WeChat in China, the state saw a massive increase in tourists, from around 200,000 to over 600,000 visitors. That's more than 400 extra people entering Malacca's economy within a year. These visitors spend on food, hotel, transportation, tourism activities, and shopping. So suddenly Malacca is facing a surge in demand for almost everything: restaurant, cafes, ride-hailing, souvenirs, hotels, homestay, and local attraction. So why this cause inflation? When demand increases, this quickly businesses need time to increase supply. Hotels cannot instantly build more rooms, restaurant cannot immediately hire more staff, and attraction cannot double their capacity overnight. So what happens? Demands become higher than supply, so price will go up. This is classic demand pull inflation. Tourists are willing to pay higher prices because they are on holiday and they typically have stronger purchasing power compared to local. So this pushes local prices upwards, especially in the tourism corridors such as Jonker Street, Klebang, Al Formosa area, and popular food spots. Because of this demand pressure, we expect Malacca inflation rate to increase year on year. Prices of hotels, room, ride-hailing fares, local food, and even basic essential in tourist-heavy areas may rise. This benefit businesses in short term, more revenue, but it also means cost of living for Malacca residents could increase, especially those living in high tourism zones. In summary, Fan Bingbing's influence created a positive tourism boom, but it also contributed to higher inflation in Malacca due to the sharp increase in consumption and pressure on local supply. This is why the inflation rate is expected to rise significantly year on year. Thank you.
Hi, good days. I'm Liu Ziping, a member of the Group 8, consists of Yap Huiliang, Leonard Achi, and Pui Huiling. After part 2, inflation by Leonard, now I'm continue to part 3, presenting the topic part of Malacca unemployment rate.
The term unemployment rate might sound like something you often hear in the news and during political discussions, but it's not just a dry statistic. Let's take a closer look at what this rate represents, why it exists, what its consequences are, and why there's such a big fuss about it. At its core, the unemployment rate is all about the percentage of the labor force that's currently jobless and actively searching for work. To be officially classified as unemployed, a person must be without a job, available and ready to work, and actively seeking employment. This definition is quite important because it doesn't include people who can't work, like children and retirees, or have chosen not to work.
Malacca unemployment rate is indeed trending downwards from 2.1% to 1.8% for the year of 2024. This is mainly because of the rising labor demand driven by tourist growth, especially from China, tourists from China. The main factor is by this Chinese actress Datuk Fan Bingbing. For Malacca, the tourist arrival from China alone is 116,000 between January to April 2024, and projected of 1 million Chinese tourists annually from 2024 onwards. Okay. There are key drivers behind this Malacca lower unemployment rate. Number one is because of the tourist demand source. Okay. Number two is labor demand expansion. Number three is supply side adjustment. Okay. So all is the factor of the global unemployment rate. Okay. All this swap and pesta analysis is the strength is strong inflows, government support, and diverse jobs creation. Weaknesses is seasonality, over dependence on China, and skill gaps. Opportunities is workforce upskilling, market diversification, ecotourism, regional spillovers. Threats, external shocks, inflation, cultural environment risks, labor saturation. Marker force pastel is a political support, economy multiplier effects, social heritage appeal, technological adoption gaps, environmental sustainability challenges, and legal framework for labor and heritage protection. And that's all from me from part 3. Thank you very much.
Good day everyone, I am Pui Hui Ling and I am from Group 8. Today, I will be presenting on how the conferment of an honorary doctorship to extract funding contributes not only to Malacca's tourism branding, but also to the broader fiscal outlook of Malacca and Malaysia. Recently, the Malacca government awarded Fan Bingbing an honorary doctorship in recognition of her role in promoting Malacca internationally. As one of Asia's most influential celebrities, with massive reach particularly in China, Korea, and across Southeast Asia, Fan Bingbing's public presence significantly enhanced Malacca's global visibilities. Her visits, social media posts, and association with the state can attract foreign tourists, create media attention, and strengthen Malacca's position as a culture and heritage tourism destination. Tourism remains one of Malacca's most important economic pillars, contributing to state revenue through hotel taxes, entertainment duties, business license, and ticket collections from heritage attractions. When international exposure increases, tourist arrivals tend to rise. This leads to higher spending in accommodation, food service, shopping, transportation, and leisure activities. As a result, Malacca collects more tourism-related revenue, helping the state government expand its fiscal capacity. With higher income, Malacca can allocate larger annual budgets for infrastructure improvements, heritage conservation, river beautification, digital tourism platforms, and community-based tourism projects. In other words, stronger tourism performance support year-on-year budget growth because the government has a larger and more stable revenue base. At the national level, Malaysia's fiscal position also benefits from rising tourism activities. including the kind inspired by global personalities like Fan Bingbing. Higher tourism arrivals increase federal level tax collection through the sales and service tax, individual and corporate income tax from tourism linked industry, and indirect tax revenue from imports and consumption. Tourism is one of Malaysia's largest service export sector, and a stronger tourism industry support broader fiscal goals such as economic recovery, job creation, and fiscal deficit reduction. This is consistent with the Ministry of Finance strategy to strengthen federal revenue while reducing long-term reliance on blanket subsidies. In summary, the conferment of an honorary doctorship to Fan Bingbing is more than an honorary gesture. It's part of a deliberate strategy to elevate Malacca's international brand, stimulate tourist arrival, and expand economic activity. As tourism grows, both of Malacca state government and the Malaysian federal government gain higher tax revenue, which in turn support larger development budgets, investment in public service, and long-term fiscal sustainability. This case demonstrates on how cultural recognition, tourism promotion, and fiscal policy are interconnected in driving regional development. Thank you from my part, and I will pass to the next presenter.
My name is Gawan Ananyandang, and I am a member of Group 8. I will be presenting on supply and demand for tourist industry in Malacca. So, how a tourist boom changes a local economy. So, this case of Malacca, when a famous person like actress Fan Bingbing promote a place, it can lead to big changes. This happened in Malacca after she encouraged her friend to visit. This situation is a perfect real life example of basic economy idea at work. The main idea involves supply and demand, how much something is available and how much people want it. By looking at this concept, we can understand not only why a price go up when tourists arrive, but also how this affect job, government money, and also the overall economy. So, okay, first we look at what happened when many new tourists come to a city like Malacca. When Fan Bingbing shared her visit on social media, it attracted more tourists from China. Suddenly, there were 3 times more visitors wanting a place to stay, food to eat, souvenir, and also ticket attraction. This is what economists call an increase in demand. It is not that things become cheaper and so people wanted more. Instead, it is that there are simply more people who want this thing at every price. As we can see on the graph, the whole demand line moved to the right. This changes everything in the market right way. But there is a problem. in the short term, the number of hotel, restaurant, and tour guide can increase quickly. You can build a new hotel in a week. Restaurant can instantly double their size. This means supply, how much is available, is mostly fixed at first. So even though many people want this service, the amount available stay almost the same. This causes a shortage at all price. Everything get fully booked, and there aren't enough taxis, restaurant table for everyone. So when there is a shortage, the price naturally start to go up. Hotel owner see they can charge more because room are full. Restaurant maybe go up their price during busy time. Taxi, hailing service charge higher fare. Even souvenirs seller increase their price because of more people want to buy. So as a price go up, two things happen. First, some tourists may decide to spend less. Maybe they choose cheaper meal or shorter stay. Second thing is businesses try to do a little more with what they have, like a hotel ending an extra bed and a room or restaurant they're staying open longer. This help balance things a bit. Eventually, the market find a new balance point where the price are much higher and a slightly larger quantity is sold. This go up in price across the tourist service is a clear example of what is called demand pool impression. However, the story doesn't stop here. Higher price mean higher profit for local businesses. When businesses owners see they can make more money, they are encouraged to expand. Over time, new hotel and restaurant are built. So more people are hired as staff, driver or guide. This means the supply of service gradually increase. If the number of tourists stay high, the market will adjust again. More service will available and the price may come down a little from the highest point. They will probably still be higher than before the tourist boom. This longer term growth create job and bring more investment into the city, which help lower unemployment. So how does all of this affect the bigger picture? The supply and demand story explain the changes in Malacca weather economy. When the price go up and more services are sold, the total value of what is sold in Malacca goes up. This increases the city economy output and also the GDP. The high price themselves contribute to inflation in the local economy. They need more workers in hotel, transport, food service, lower the unemployment rate, and finally, with more money being spent, the government collects more taxes from sales tax, business taxes, and the tourist fee. This gives the government more money to spend on improving the city. So for the conclusion, supply and demand in Malacca, something as simple as a celebrity social media post can set up a chance of economic events using the ideas of supply and demand help us to see exactly how from higher price and shortage at first to more job and business grow over time. This basic principle how a tourist boom can reshape a local economy step by step. Far from being just a classroom topic, supply and demand have real world changes, showing how the choices of customer and businesses interact to shape our everyday life. Okay, that's all my presentation on the supply and demand. Thank you very much.